Side and you.
But they're available.
Third-party reporting.
It was a media. It was a media.
Yeah,
But
third-party
the public doesn't matter? The public's opinion doesn't
The
matter?
public does, but it was a media briefing. But I'm available to answer any questions of individuals.
My question was on third-party reporting of bylaw infractions. And this opens,
No, but this had nothing to do with the
oh
review.
yes, that,
No,
that's
listen, in fairness.
that's why I wanted
No, but
the mayor to be
You
here.
asked me the question,
Yeah.
I've seen the file.
Yeah.
This wasn't a third-party reporting. This was a police officer on the street who saw a bylaw infraction and issued a ticket. So that nothing to do with third-party reporting. This incident took place in front of King's Place, where a police officer saw someone not wearing a helmet and issued a ticket. It's an infraction. So
I tried to report a bylaw infraction to the police right shortly after this happened to Charles. Because I see people riding on the sidewalk every day without helmets.
Of course.
And I understood that this report came from Mr.
No,
Bossier.
that's not the case.
It's not the case?
No, well, you read my report,
love
and
to.
the facts are there. The officer was on King Street, saw Charles on the other side of the street, riding his bicycle without helmet. It's a bylaw infraction. He issued a ticket. So it wasn't a third-party report.
It wasn't.
No.
But that goes on in this town, and I think that opens, that's why I wanted the mayor here, but
My question, sorry,
that's okay, I'm done.
my question is, Charles's blog site is in the public domain. Everything he says is in the public domain. As a member of the public, what really concerns me is that the police had to force entry to his home, search and seize, with 8 officers or so there, when they already had everything that they were alleging was criminal libel.
Yeah.
So why was it so heavy-handed? My question is, why did the police not go to Charles, say, hey, you're going to come for questioning. We want to know what else you've got.
Mm-hmm.
Why was it so heavy-handed and so offensive? Because his charter right is to be protected from unlawful search and seizure, which it turned out to be, because 301, they should have known. If the police are not lawyers, they should at least know the law.
And they consulted with the Crown, and the Crown, that's in the file, it's very clear in the file. The Crown said you have to gather the evidence. Part of that is seizing the computer. So that was,
So
that's not,
why couldn't they go and speak to him?
that's not illegal search and seizure.
But why, well, it turned out to be an unconstitutional charge anyway that they were
Well,
pursuing him on.
and that's not settled, right? It's my opinion that it is unconstitutional. It's
Well,
been
the Crown
found to be
agreed, the
unconstitutional.
Crown agreed,
The Crown
police
agreed
have
not
agreed.
to pursue the charge. But the Crown argued with me that it's not settled law because it hasn't been decided by any appellate court in Canada. And no province is bound by Court of Queen's Bench level decisions in other provinces. So technically, it's not settled law. Either, in my view, the criminal code should be amended, taking out 301, but that hasn't been done yet. So it's not settled law. That's the reality.
So where do we find the report, or are there copies we can take?
Right here.
Thank you very much.
I had a couple of questions too. Have you addressed the issue of the relationship between the police and the Crown and how they are working together to target people?
Well, there is a chapter on the Crown's involvement, but it's more from a police investigation perspective. You know, how does that work, and when do they consult the Crown? And we have a pre-charge, as I've said, pre-charge screening process here in New Brunswick and I think BC and Quebec. So I talk about that and whether that could have avoided the search warrant, for instance, which I agree. I mean, it's very intimidating at the best of times. 6 police officers, 2 civilian members of the RCMP knock on your door and say we're executing a search warrant. Right. It's not an easy thing. I just put myself in Charles' place. It's no fun, certainly. Now, it is kind of the process we use in our criminal investigations.
But was the relationship recognized? I mean, that they were working together, because it's still happening. And when is it going to stop?
Oh, but they do work together. That's why we have...
Yes, but they work together to hurt people, to target people.
that I didn't
Just a
see.
week ago,
That I didn't see any evidence of that in my investigation.
Well, see, I filed a complaint against an officer to the police commission.
Right.
It landed on Leanne Finch's desk.
Right.
My husband received 2 letters. One letter saying if he doesn't pay a $50 meter fine, he's going to jail for 4 days. The other one says if he doesn't pay a $25 meter charge, they're selling his car. These are bylaw tickets. These are, the Crown is working with the police to fabricate. These are illegal actions.
Honestly,
These are not.
I don't know.
You can't put somebody in jail
I
for
spent,
a meter, not
hundreds
writing
of hours on this file. I don't know anything about
Right,
that.
I know, but I'm just saying that as an example. It's clear that the Crown and the police are working together.
But they do work together, and
But
that's part of our
not-
system. But not to target or to attack.
In the way they
I mean,
should.
that they shouldn't be doing that, and that's not the purpose of the process.
But it
It's
seems
to
that way
determine-
because this officer, when he went to his superior and said, I am upset, I'm distraught, Charles Leblanc put some things on his blog about me. Why did that supervisor not say to him, oh, it's Charles Leblanc, he's doing his job? I mean, when I was attacked by 7 men, police officers, I was told they were doing their job when they stripped me naked and beat me. They were doing their job. So why wasn't this officer, who is so distraught over a comment on a blog,
Right.
why wasn't he told Charles was doing his job?
We don't know everything that was said to the police officer because clearly, from what I could find, it's obvious to me that the police officer was told, listen, you're a police officer, suck it up, right? Suck it up. Those exact words were used. It's
pretty much what I was told.
Right? And so that you're not a police officer, so
Nope.
it's a different test in my view. But for a police officer to be criticized, including on the blog, it's to some extent to be expected. It's part of the job. They have to intervene in tough situations sometime, and sometimes they sometimes they cross the line. That's been found many times across the country. So to some extent, I think they do have to suck it up, or just to say it's Charles Leblanc, and Charles is going to do what Charles does, and you just have to live with it. Now, but you can't force a victim, any victim, to accept that judgment, right? You can't
It just
say
seems
you're
like a
going
double
to do it,
standard.
and this is an order, right?
I mean, this officer is upset about an action,
But, you know, in
and
the
all the guns are pulled.
But in the report,
I'm upset about
but all the
something that
guns were
happened
not
to me.
pulled, right? Because in this
The
case,
case file is closed.
as I said during the press briefing, if it had been up to the police, I think charges would have been laid.
Mm-hmm.
The Crown cut it off, right? So in this case, the Crown said, no,
But what frightens-
the charge is not going to stick, and we're not going to approve it.
What's frightening is that it took the CCLA stepping in, because I know how the Crown operates too.
Yes.
And it's evil. And the CCLA stepped in, and it took 3 months or so after the CCLA said this is unconstitutional.
Actually, more than the
Before-
CCLA, the UNB,
Yeah,
and others.
Took a lot of convincing.
So basically, I think
Gordon
if
Graham, is it
if
Graham
they
Gordon,
hadn't,
the former city councillor, wrote about it, the mayor talked about it. So I
yeah,
think,
but I think if all those people hadn't stepped in, he'd be in jail. That's what frightens me.
I think if the charge, if the Crown had agreed to approve the charge, he would have been charged. I don't think he would have been found guilty, because the process is such that once you get, because there's an ongoing, very long, detailed police investigation, but the discussion on the law only takes place at the very end. And if the Crown had said, or even the Crown, which happens sometimes, right? that Someone is investigated for murder, and the Crown says, we're not going to prove this, we're going to charge manslaughter with lower charge. Well, the Crown might have said, listen, 301, it's not going to stick, let's charge with 300, which has been found to be constitutional by the
yes,
Supreme
yes.
Court. So they could have said that, but they didn't.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think a lot of things might have happened. I mean, I was presented with the file as it took place. I told the Crown, I think it would have, in this case, given Charles' notoriety and his history with the police force, it would have been useful to do a review of the law before the search warrant. Because when the police decided to get his computer, they needed to have the Crown approve that. They needed to have a provincial court judge approve that. They got that done. In my view, it's such a robust intervention that it would have been, given that 301 is so obviously not available anymore in Canada, that they should have given that opinion at that time.
There was one other thing, correct me if I'm wrong, but the CCLA, I believe they also criticised the police because the constable in question was part of the group that actually did the search and seizure.
No, he wasn't. I asked for that specifically, and I saw the list of all of the officers.
Okay, because there were some words, something they said
No, and
was
they
a
don't
conflict.
and they don't mention that in their brief.
Okay.
Their brief is available online. They spend a lot of time saying that they should have taken a non-criminal law approach. Like
Yes.
that the police force should have said, listen, obviously, if you're a policeman doing community policing and you're accused of being a sexual predator and that children are not safe, it's pretty serious, right? You would be, anyone would be upset. So they should have given him all the support he said he needed, and they should have responded to Charles' blog, perhaps. Now, I do say in my report, bloggers are bloggers.